Hey guys, so this is going to be a quick video and giving you possible reasons to why your X'Eye is not reading Sega CD games properly or at all. I'm going to give my reasons from least likely to most likely. Um, Usually the issue is going to be around this area of the system, specifically the CD body drive over here itself. But let me give you my first suggestion. First one would be bad capacitors. Now, from all the X'Eyes I've seen, I've never seen one with leakage or bulky caps. Honestly, these caps they use are premium quality. They've lasted for many years and probably still gonna keep going. Of course, I recommend you change them at one point, but as you can see, like the ones on mine, they are just in good shape, and that's why these things are at least likely the reason why it's not reading your Sega CD games. My next suggestion would be checking the connectors, especially your ribbon cable over here and the connector over here that's to the motor. This guy can be lifted from the two tabs on the side. You just gotta carefully, lift up from one side and the other, and then you're able to pull this ribbon cable out. And as you can see how much it's being fed in there, that's how much it should show that how much inside is going. If you see more of those metal teeth sticking out, there's a chance that it's not doing a full connection. So keep in mind that. Same for the other end. So yeah, basically check that ribbon cable on both sides and on the motor cable on both sides. Lifting this bay drive is not really difficult at all. It's actually just being held by one screw back there and those four little rubber feet that you can just press down, and yeah, you can just press them down and you can are able to like lift this thing. But do that after you disconnect the ribbon cable and motor cable, of course. So there's that. The next suggestion to look into would be the lens itself. It's probably a dirty lens. Get some alcohol, Q-tip, and wipe that off. Hopefully, it could be just as simple as that. Your issue is. Other issue I would recommend looking into would be the metal rod on the CD bay drive here. As you can see over there, over time it loses its lubrication, so you might want to just get some metal grease and apply it on that, and like with your other hand just like let this thing just like bring it up and down so it can spread, and that should help it. It'll help it regardless, because you're giving it a clean momentum. So there's that. Then my biggest culprit. Also apart from that, if none of that has helped you so far, then it could be just changing the optical lens on your X'Eye itself. And I've mentioned this in my other video. Yes, you could replace just the lens, but it's honestly easier and cheaper to just get one that has the whole unit for sale. And I got this whole piece right here for $20 on Amazon. The only thing it was missing was this metal plate here that I took from the old one and put it on this one. So yeah, all the ribbon cable fit, the motor cable fit underneath it, and it was a perfect fit. So thankfully, these things are easy to find, but if you want to change the lens itself, that's another option. So yeah, all those things I've mentioned so far will help you greatly and increasing the chances of being able for you to play your Sega CD games again. So for me, one of the biggest culprits in your X'Eye not being able to detect Sega CD games when you put a disc on is this little switch over here. This is your lid switch. So when it's being pressed down, it's detecting to see if it's basically giving access to your system to start detecting if there's a disc up there. If it's not being pressed down, you're gonna get a screen on your system saying to please insert a disc. So this little switch is being held by two solder joints in the bottom. So these things could be replaced if yours is broken. Some issues I've heard for this switch is that it's always being pressed down, meaning that the feedback inside must have broken off, so it's just a broken switch. Or the little plastic tip up there has completely just snapped off. But yeah, this little switch has to be pressed down to detect CD games on it. So on the top shell of your X'Eye, what presses down on that lid switch on the board itself is this piece over here. And if you can see, this little circle, see, I'm pushing up, that's that plastic rod. This is the other end of it. And when I close this tray, this plastic piece over here sticking out pushes down inside that circle, which pushes down inside that little plastic rod, which presses down on the lid switch. So you might be wondering, what is this little plastic white piece at the end of it? So over time, these little plastic rods will not hit the switch at all. They'll go on to the side of it or so. They're not even pressing down to them, because that little switch is so thin. At some point during these machines, they lose the alignment, and they're just not able to do a proper target press down on them. So what I did here was I simply added a dip of hot glue at the end of this thing, waited a few seconds, and then I pressed down on it. So I basically went ahead and increased the hit detection for this thing to the lid switch, so it guarantees that it presses it down and it doesn't just slip by it on the sides. And this has worked for me very well. So that is something to look forward to, something to look into if you're if that piece over here isn't pressing down on this thing. So yeah. So if you wanted to, just like this, you don't need the tray. You can put a disc on top here, a Sega CD game or so. And before you turn on the system, with your finger, you can just press down on the switch and then turn on the system. You will see the red light start up, of course, for power, but then you'll see the green light trying to start up, trying to access the disc. So this will tell you that your system is still working and still reading the disc, but it's just simply not being pressed down here. So that's something you want to consider looking into. So that is my suggestion and troubleshooting this part if you're having that issue. For this being the issue that it's just not detecting a disc, it's asking you to insert a disc even though you have a disc inserted. It's most likely that this switch here is not being pressed down. So yeah, you can try doing what I did, which was applying a dab of hot glue on top and just spreading it so it guarantees that it's being pressed down. Let me move to my next topic. Well, not my next topic, but my next suggestion. Now, what you could do next is just replace the optical lens, and none of that worked. And you have two options. You can just buy the lens itself, or just buy the lens with the whole bay drive already assembled to it. It was actually cheaper for me to buy this, like this, than getting this. This cost me $40. This cost me like $20. And one thing to mention is that when you do get an optical lens, a replacement like this or that, you want to make sure that down here, if you can see that, the top right, when you buy these new, there's gonna be a solder blob on the top right. you want to get your soldering iron and go across it to turn it back into 2 solder joints. Because if you leave it as one single solder blob, this thing is not going to work properly. Or at all, I believe. So make sure that when you get this, to separate that solder blob into two solder joints. Regarding this purchase, this whole piece came like this. The only thing that it was missing was the metallic black part that's being held by 3 screws down here. Here. And I just simply swapped that from my old one and put it into this one. Which is in there, of course, it's this one. And everything connected perfectly. It was a 1-to-1 match. So it's good to know that you can buy these whole things already assembled like this. And another thing to mention, if you were to do a lens swap, once you do a lens swap and it's trying to read a Sega CD game and it's not doing it properly, my next suggestion is here, which is this little orange like screw. You can adjust it, and if you were to, it goes by like 190 degrees. It doesn't do like full spins. So this is actually a good suggestion. And after you replace your lens and it's not reading the games still properly, you can just simply adjust that. And if it doesn't work when you twist it to the left, twist it to the right, by that it's a high good chance that it'll make your Sega CD games run properly if you do that. But do make sure to mark it. Like, remember where that number label, if you can see it, there's like a 202. It's labeled or so. If moving that around doesn't help you, then put it back to its original position. So yeah. That's all my possible suggestions and fixing your X'Eye. They are possible to fix the CD portion and being able to run Sega CD games again. It's just a matter of, like I've mentioned before, time, effort, and just being patient. You can get it fixed. It's tedious, but these things are fixable. And once you fix it, it's nice to know that you have both a cartridge area that works for Sega Genesis games and a working CD drive for your Sega CD games. But alright guys, hopefully I covered enough suggestions that you might look into if you're having these issues. If you have any questions, go ahead, put them in the comments. Try to answer them when I get the chance. But thank you for watching.